To the next session of today, and I would like to invite a dear friend, a real worldwide class hacker, a CEO of a marvelous startup company called CYBERWEEK in the area of automotive. So welcome, Matan Sharaf. He will take this forward. Matan, welcome.
Hi everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. The guys in the back? Oh, now you can hear me. I know it, right? Okay, so hi, my name is Matan Sharaf, as my good friend Yaakov told you, and I drew the short straw. There's a lottery, a raffle that goes, and the question is, who has to be the poor sop that steps into many's shoes and moderate the second part of the day? Unfortunately, for myself, I drew the short straw, so you guys are going to spend some time with me. And, you know, this conference, I want to repeat some of the things Many said. This conference is amazing. It brings people from all over the world. And I think that the one thing that each and every person in this room has in common is that we all have a question in our head. And the question that we're asking ourselves is, what's going to happen next? Because we live in a very dynamic environment. We live in a place where things change, not every day, but every minute, where new adversaries are revealed. And the biggest question on our minds is, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to defend ourselves against these threats in such a dynamic environment? There was one of the speakers earlier today gave one of my favorite quotes, and he said, if you want to predict the future, the best way to do it is to make the future. So the first speaker that I want to call on stage is doing just that at maybe one of the best places to do that, at Microsoft. I would like to invite on stage Michal, Braverman-Blumenstyk. She's the CTO of Cloud and AI Security Division at Microsoft. Michal, the stage is yours.
The good old way, no problem. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michal. Very happy to see all of you today. Okay, where's the... okay, we solved the problem. Very excited to be here today. It's really invigorating. I'm part of the steering committee of this conference, and we are doing it for the past 8 years. And it's really great to see that every year we get more and more people, more and more topics to cover, and more people that come here all over the world. So it's very exciting. So this session, this afternoon, is going to deal with the new trends in cybersecurity and what's going to happen next. Obviously, before we talk about the next trend in the solution domain, which is cybersecurity, it's very important to understand what are the next trends in cybercrime, because we have to know our enemy. And the best way to produce the best solutions is to make sure that we understand what we are standing in front of. So I'm going to start with trends in cybercrime, and then I'm going to end with what my belief are the principles of cybersecurity that we need to combat the threats. And therefore, I'm talking about breaching data, things, humans, and reality. So, in the past 2 years, the number of cyber breaches have grown exponentially. Almost every week, every day, we hear about a new breach. Okay? Many of them, and this is only for the last 1.5 years. But I want to show you, and those are what you see here highlighted, are breaches that happened in the last few weeks. So for example, the jackpotting attack, now hitting the US. What is a jackpotting attack? It's really like the name. It's really like a jackpot in the casino. Criminals, what they do, they abduct the ATM and install it both hardware and software. They disconnect it from the main server from the bank, and they completely empty all the cash in the ATM, exactly like a jackpot in a casino. Another interesting attack that happened only a week ago was that hacker breached Securus. Now, Securus is the main provider of mobile data and intelligence that law enforcement are using. So for example, if they want to know where you are with your cellular and what the criminals travel, they will use that company. And you can imagine what damage it can create if this company was breached. But this is not all. What we saw until now is mostly breaches, sort of old-fashioned, not old-fashioned, they still happen, but breaches of data and stealing money. But this is not all. So what do fish tanks and baby monitors have in common, and many other IoT devices, is that there are small computers which make our life easier and they are connected to the internet. Okay? And IoT, and again, it's not only baby monitors and fish tanks and many others, as you all know, but in the past year, IoT devices were the source of many attacks. The most famous one was the Mirai attack that infected millions of devices and created one of the biggest DDoS in the world. Now, why IoT devices are being attacked? From 3 reasons. The main reason, or at least one of the most important, is that the IoT device is controlling some important function, maybe a nuclear power, maybe some other thing, some other important critical infrastructure, and the criminal or the terrorist want to harm it. That's one reason. Another reason is that many times the IoT devices, like a fish tank, and there was a real attack a few months ago, is connected to, via the internet, to the corporate IT. Why it's connected? Because it's very convenient to check the temperature of the fish to make sure that they thrive in the main lobby and via the internet. But if it's connected to the main corporate IT, then it's another vector of entry. So one of the famous attacks is that someone attacked the fish tank because nobody thought that there was any data interesting there. Via that, they entered the corporate IT and they breached a lot of data from there. The third reason that we have IoT attacks is that IoT are small computers connected to the internet. And because they don't have any interesting data there, like no interesting data in baby monitors or in fish tanks or in refrigerators, most of the time we don't protect them. However, as I said, there are small computers connected to the internet. Now, if a hacker wants to do a DDoS attack, he or she needs a lot of computing power. And they usually don't like to pay for that. So what they do, they steal it. So they install malware, again, like the Mirai attack, in all those IoT devices. They control it remotely, and now they have a huge computer power which they can generate DDoS or other attacks. So as you see, IoT become a real target of attack. And since the Mirai attack, people understand it, and there is a lot of activity now in defending IoT devices. And of course, IoT is not just those small devices, it's also connected cars and connected medical devices, and all of it are target of attacks, and all of it now, the industry is doing a lot of work in order to make sure we protect them. So we talk about breaching data and breaching things, but this is not the end. It's really interesting to talk about the next vector of attacks. So everybody's talking about fake news. I'm more concerned, and fake news to me is telling a lie about something that really happened. I'm more concerned about fake reality. And fake reality is actually creating really reality which is not true. And I'll give you a few examples. So several months ago, there was released to the internet movies that look absolutely real of some major Hollywood stars that appeared in porno movies. Absolutely, of course, they didn't do it. However, hackers use very sophisticated machine learning program in order to create those videos that looked absolutely real. It's not like in the past, Photoshop, etc., you could see that it's really not real. It was extremely difficult to see that it's real. But this is only a small example. Another example, there are security cameras all over. And many times criminals are caught because they are caught on those cameras, and the footage of those security cameras are admissible in law. However, it's now becoming very easy by a criminal to insert into this security camera, again, it's connected security camera, footage of something that didn't happen. And you can imagine what it can do to the world politics if a movie that shows a world leader meeting with the leader of ISIS, what can it do to the world politics? And again, this is not it, but I think that this is not only it, but I think you understand the point. Another thing is breaching humans. And breaching humans, I'm not talking about the old way of saying breaching humans, which is social engineering. It's still very strong. Social engineering is very important vector in doing phishing attacks, etc. But now we have to worry about real breaching humans. The most trivial example that comes to mind is pacemakers and insulin pumps, which are health devices that are connected to our body, and they can be remote. They are connected remotely, and obviously you can sue if you hack it. What happened? But this is not only it. More examples, and this will be more. We have a lot of variables, and we use almost and we use our cellular phone in order to make our life easier, in order to control the way we consume food, the way we run, etc. And it's also possible to hack these devices. So you can imagine if I have to go to a very important place and I'm looking at my watch and it helps me to navigate, and someone hacked with it, and I'm going to the wrong place, which might be very dangerous for me. Or I'm doing something, and again, not everybody is crazy like me, that I'm addicted to my Fitbit. And if I don't get my, the right heart rate on my Fitbit, I will continue to run. So even a crazy person like me will not run themselves to death, but you can imagine what variable and the devices that we are used on a daily usage can do to us, and if they are being hacked. Now, under no circumstances, I'm saying that we have to go back. Technology is here and progress is here to make our life better. Our health is better, our quality of life is better because of all this technology. But the huge involvement of technology in our body, in our life, is a huge vector of attacks, and we have to be aware of that. And we have to take care of it. So, we all know already that cyber is a CEO issue. It's not a CIO or a CISO, but it's more than that now. Can someone tell me what was the #1 threat on the US on 2017? Now, if you say cyber, because that's what you thought I'm expecting you to say, you were wrong. In 2017, the first threat to the US, and this is by a report that is published every year by the Director of National Intelligence in the US. So the #1 threat was nuclear power. And that was not surprising, because nuclear threats was the #1 threat for the US for the past 70 years. In the new report that was just published in 2018, about 2 months ago, for the first time, it's not nuclear. For the first time, cyber is the first threat to the US. And nuclear now made it to #2, and terrorism to #3. Now, it's not just the military aspect of the cyber, but cyber affect all part of it's the politics, it's the economy, and of course the military. Okay? And this is really a step function that we only crossed this year. Now let's talk a little bit about not only about the technology and the threats, but who are the people who stands behind that. So the criminals, they're not those guys that are sitting with black hoodies somewhere in the dungeons. No, they're very organized. So maybe I went a little bit overboard. They're not corporate. They're more like startups. But they are very sophisticated in the technology. They leverage AI. They leverage machine learning. They're also not only sophisticated in the technology, they're also very, very good at marketing. They have connection, they have franchise. As a matter of fact, a recent report showed that their ability to cooperate internationally is much more effective than all the cyber bureaus that communicate internationally. So, Aviatar Metania, the next speaker, maybe you should look at that. So, with all those threats, so what is really needed, and again, the rest of the speakers will talk a lot about it, but I want to talk about what I believe is the new art or the art of war that will make us win this war, because it's a war, right? And it's a war that we have to be aware that we, the good guys, must win, but we have a very sophisticated opponents. So the first thing is intelligence. And intelligence, I'm talking in the broader sense. It's a lot of human intelligence. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of research in security. It's a lot of understanding what the enemies, and again, the enemies are the criminals, what they are planning. And of course, taking all this intelligence and know-how and making it into a digital form that can be used by the products. So this is the first step. The first step, the second step is machine learning and analytics. There are so many solutions right now and so many point solutions. And the security operations that get all this information, they suffer from what is called alert fatigue. And more than that, for more trees, you cannot see the forest. You have in a typical security operations center, you have like 100 products. So what do you do first? And what do you listen first? And what is the most important threat to your organization? That if you don't deal with it, the organization will collapse. And that's why we need very strong analytics that will extract all this information from the big data into very small and meaningful information that they can act upon, actionable. Machine learning is a must because we cannot operate all this data by the usual methods. And machine learning systems have to analyze all this data and extract what is needed to be done, what is the most important thing. Another thing is that a war that cannot be fought alone. That's why partnership, and I think that my colleague Hugh Thompson from Symantec also discussed that. It's a partnership. There is no single bullet solution. And more than that, there is now one company that can do it by itself. Therefore, we need cooperation. We need cooperation between the countries. We need cooperation between vendors that are competitors to make sure that they share information about threats, to make sure that they share signals so analytic system can be smarter and give the threat. And what I believe very strongly is without the cloud, we cannot do it. Which I know is a little bit controversial because people think, on-prem is so much safer than the cloud. It used to be, but it's not there anymore. And on the contrary, in the cloud, you can be more safer. And why? Because intelligence and machine learning and partnership, the cloud is a great infrastructure that supports it. And if you have all this information as a cloud provider, you can see, for example, an attack on one tenant and leverage that in order to protect all the tenants, not only in the cloud, but also on the on-premise. In other words, analytics that is done in the clouds helps also the hybrid enterprise, which has on-prem assets as well. Because, of course, we all know there is no enterprise that have everything only in the cloud or only in the on-prem. It's hybrid. But the power of analytics to do it in the cloud gives us the ability to give a much better security. So, thank you. What I would like to do now, I hope that I shed some light about where the direction of the threats are going. And we have very exciting speakers today.